Megabonk! Last time I covered the AFK Gaming Challenge on Forest Level 1, because I think it's a more interesting and difficult challenge than most of the others. And so is the Pacifist Challenge, where you have to beat the final boss of Forest 1 with no weapons. Like with the previous challenge, it'll help a lot if we turn off all of the unlocked items that won't help us. Without weapons, all of your level ups will go only to tomes. Which tomes you want probably depend on which character you prefer for this challenge. I think Calcium is the best, for mostly speed-related reasons, but really most characters could probably succeed at this. The first tome you want is the Agility tome. You want several levels of agility as fast as possible to enable you to find key objects in the level, especially Moai statues and microwaves. Once you have enough movement speed to explore the whole map in a reasonable time frame, switch to only getting tomes for defense. For Calcium, on this challenge, that means ideally the Shield tome, Regen tome, and HP tome. Other defensive tomes might also be viable, like Evasion, Lifesteal, or Armor, but they seem less good than the previous ones for this challenge. There might be a way to beat this with a Thorns build, but it would require an item that I have not yet unlocked, the Cactus. Damage Tome is also helpful, but I prefer to invest as much into defense as possible to enable a specific strategy. I don't think attack speed does anything, and crit chance might help, but I'm not sure if it's worth investing in. With no weapons, we have to do all of our damage just with items. This is pretty tricky. There are 4 categories of items that deal damage. Items that generate hits, items that generate more attacks on hit, items that generate attacks when you get hit, and items that give you +% damage. The last group I'm going to mostly ignore because it's kind of self-explanatory. Those items are helpful, but not as helpful as anything that actually creates more attacks. There are a lot of items in the third group, but without something to generate hits in the first place, these items do nothing. In terms of items that can create hits, our options are pretty limited. The Cursed Doll will kill an enemy every few seconds, but is useless against bosses. Its best function is quickly killing elite enemies, which gives you more items. It also doesn't generate that many hits. Ghost, on the other hand, generates several hits, but only when you interact with an object. Common items are not enough on their own to deal the kind of damage you need. In this run, I had 2 Cursed Dolls and 2 Ghosts, but nothing really good. I got my level high enough to get enough speed and defense to survive till the end, but I didn't have a way to actually kill the boss. In this run, I had some decent items, so I summoned the boss extra early, but I chose the wrong tomes, so I wasn't able to survive long enough to kill the boss. I didn't start recording until 45 seconds into this run, so I already have the golden sneakers. It's tempting to open lots of chests early if you get this item, but it's actually better to save your money while you scout at the level and find what you need to make a viable build. Shady guys have the best chance of giving you rare or legendary items, so it's best to find all of them before you start opening chests. Before the first boss spawns, focus on getting obelisks. You want at least 2 extra jumps. This way you can jump up an entire level. Also, you want at least 1 power-up drop chance, otherwise the end game is going to be much more difficult. Pots are your only source of resources before you find damage, but breaking pots without the ghost item is kind of robbing yourself of potential damage that you could do later. So it's kind of up to you to decide how many pots to break and when. I've had runs where I ran out of pots completely. I found a Moai statue. I have lots of money, so I'm going to refresh repeatedly and get Electric Plug. Got it. Don't spend your refreshes on anything but the Moai statue. It is by far your best chance of getting exactly the items you want. Now that I have an Electric Plug and golden sneakers, I just need to focus on making myself more durable. I actually don't succeed on this run because I spend way too much time running around and not enough time smacking my face into groups of enemies to gain experience and damage the bosses. Electric Plug is, I think, the best single item to use for this challenge. As long as your shield is still active, you won't lose your speed demon buff if you play Calcium, so you can treat yourself like an electrified pinball. hadn't quite figured this out yet on this run, but I happened to get the perfect setup anyway. Because I was not utilizing Electric Plug to gain levels, I am only level 9 when the final swarm starts, and I haven't even touched the boss's health bar. Quick tangent, I discovered something strange about the final swarm while doing this challenge. I don't know if this is a glitch or intentional game design, but if there are too many enemies still alive when the final swarm starts, the ghosts never spawn. Instead, normal enemies just get progressively more and more movement speed and damage until they eventually turn into a tidal wave of death. In this run, I had a good damage setup again, but I did not get the health regen tome, so can't deal enough damage fast enough to kill the boss. I also still wasn't pinballing enough after I got the Electric Plug. And you really do need Electric Plug for this to work well. In this run, where I played as Vlad for a change of pace, I got insanely lucky with items. 3 copies of Cursed Doll, 2 ghosts, cheese, thunder mitts, even a toxic barrel, which functions similarly to Electric Plug, although it seems to be worse in my opinion. Plus enough health regen and lifesteal to keep myself alive. But I never did get Electric Plug, and so the pinball strat just doesn't quite work as well as it can. I got really close though, and I probably would have won had I played the ending a little bit differently. But if I had gotten Electric Plug, then this would have been easy. Now I'll show you 2 runs where I succeeded. This run starts perfectly. I immediately get power-up drop chance and 2 extra jumps, and then the golden sneakers. I still haven't found anything that creates hits by the first boss, which is bad, but oh shit, a microwave. These are very rare on Forest 1. I need to remember this so that I can come back to it after I have more items. Finally, I get a ghost. Now we're in business. Halfway to the final swarm, and I find a Moai statue, where I burn all of my gold and refreshes to get the Electric Plug. Now I just need to start gaining levels as fast as possible to get more shield and health regen. Once you have the Electric Plug, you'll be able to go for obelisks again if you want to. I now know where the boss portal is, so all I need to do is go back to that microwave, duplicate my cheese 3 times, and then come back and kill the boss. Duplicating Ghost 3 times might also have worked, but I didn't want to run out of interactables to create ghosts with. I get my 3 copies of cheese, and I even get to keep my ghost, which is really lucky. So now I just need to get back to the boss. Oh yes, more cheese. At this point, I think it's just a matter of getting the right power-up. And you might notice that one has already spawned, but I have not noticed that. Both shield and clock enable you to just run straight into the boss to deal a lot of damage. Getting the shield also let me kill most of the nearby units, which makes Cursed Doll switch to the boss, and if Cursed Doll combines with enough levels of moldy cheese, then it starts to do real damage. Getting a microwave is pretty rare though, so I will show a run where I win without a microwave. In this run, I start off by making some questionable decisions. I waste a refresh on tomes, which is generally not a good idea. Probably better to just skip or banish and leave the refreshes for the statues. Then I find a statue, and I refresh once for golden sneakers, which is not as good as Electric Plug, but getting golden sneakers early greatly increases your chances of success in this challenge. Halfway through, and I still only have 1 Cursed Doll and 1 moldy cheese, which is not very good. So if I don't find something to help me gain levels fast, I am in trouble. And then I get Electric Plug from a chest. That was super lucky. That actually might be more lucky than getting a microwave. I don't know. Each one only happened to me once while I was trying this. Then I get a clutch shield power-up, and I use it to jack up my health regen and finally pick up the shield tome. With that, I have everything I need to summon the boss. When you're doing this, it's best to bump into the weakest enemies possible to take the least amount of damage, but the more enemies there are, the harder that becomes. So I just played Ring Around the Rosie until a useful power-up drops. And then, just like the other run, once I clear out most of the units, Cursed Doll plus Cheese is enough to finish off the boss on its own. There are two other strategies that I think might work for this challenge. One that uses thorns and the cactus item, and another that uses the item Bob Dead. Leave me a comment if you want me to make a follow-up video where I try out those strategies. And until next time, happy bonking. Huh? What? What is that? Why do I hear... No. The time is not yet right. Not yet.